Welcome, traveler. Come in from the cold. The fire is warm and the shadows here are friendly. You've been walking a long time, haven't you? Looking for answers, perhaps? Or maybe just a distraction from the noise of the world outside. Tonight, we aren't talking about the future or technology or the rush of the city. Tonight, we go back. Back to a time when the boundary between the earth and the spirit was thin as a spider's web. Let me ask you this. Have you ever wanted something so badly that you were willing to take a shortcut to get it? We all have. A shortcut to wealth, to love, to success. But the old stories tell us that the universe keeps a ledger. For every shortcut taken, a debt is accrued. And tonight's story is about a man who found a shortcut and the village that almost paid the price. This is the tale of Elian and the hollow bone of the mountain. Are you ready? Then let's begin. High in the crags of the Silver Mist Mountains, there sat a village called Oakhaven. It wasn't a rich village. The soil was rocky, the winters were long, and the summers were fleeting. The people of Oakhaven were hard people, carved from the same granite as their cliffs. They knew that if you didn't work, you didn't eat. It was a simple, honest equation. Among them lived a woodcarver named Elian. Elian was different. While the other men were broad-shouldered and loud, boasting of how many rocks they moved, Elian was slender and quiet. He spent his days in the high forests, listening. He claimed the trees spoke to him. Not in words, mind you, but in creaks, groans, and the rustle of leaves. He would touch the bark of an ancient pine and say, "This one wants to be a cradle," or "This one dreams of being a violin." The villagers tolerated him. "Harmless dreamer," they would say, tapping their heads. "Let him play with his twigs while we do the real work." One autumn, a storm of ungodly fury struck the mountain. It wasn't just wind and rain. It was a screaming tempest that shook the foundations of the houses. Thunder cracked like the whip of a god. When the morning sun finally broke through, the village was battered. But Elian didn't look at the houses. He ran straight to the tree line. There, the elder ironwood, a tree said to be 1,000 years old, had lost a single, massive branch. It lay on the moss, black as coal and smooth as glass. But it wasn't solid. Lightning had struck it, hollowing it out perfectly from end to end, searing the inside. Elian knelt beside it. The wind blew across the open end of the branch, and a sound emerged. It wasn't a whistle. It was a low, resonant hum that made Elian's teeth vibrate. It sounded like the mountain itself was breathing. He took the wood home. For 3 days and 3 nights, he didn't sleep. He carved. He didn't force the wood, he followed it. He bored holes where the knots were naturally placed. He polished it with beeswax and river clay. When he was finished, he held a flute the length of his arm. It was ugly, twisted, and black. He sat on his porch, took a deep breath, and played the first note. It wasn't just a sound, it was a sensation. A low thrum that rippled through the air. As he played a melody, the clouds above the village, gray and heavy with more rain, suddenly parted. Just like that. A circle of blue sky opened up directly over Oakhaven. Sunlight poured down, warm and golden, while the rest of the mountain remained in shadow. Elian stopped playing. The clouds drifted back. He played again. The sun returned. He had found the voice of the sky. The change in Oakhaven was immediate. Elian played for the rain when the crops were thirsty. He played for the sun when the mud was too thick. That year, the harvest was not just good, it was miraculous. pumpkins the size of carriage wheels, wheat that grew waist-high in a week. The villagers stopped mocking Elian. They built him a new house. They brought him the finest cuts of meat. "Play for us, Elian," they would shout. "Make the winter warm. Make the snow miss our roofs." And Elian, kind-hearted Elian, did as they asked. But he noticed something. The more he played, the less the people worked. Why plow the rocky earth deep when Elian could just sing the crops up? Why reinforce the roof when Elian could divert the storm? The calluses on the villagers' hands softened. Their gratitude turned into expectation. And then, expectation turned into demand. News of the miracle of Oakhaven traveled down the mountain, reaching the ears of a merchant named Vargo.
Vargo was a man who saw the world not as a garden, but as a warehouse. Everything had a price tag. He arrived in Oakhaven in a carriage with iron-rimmed wheels, wearing a coat of velvet that cost more than the entire village. He found Elian sitting on his porch, looking pale. The flute was heavy in his lap. Using the magic was draining him, taking his vitality bit by bit. "Elian," Vargo purred, his voice like oil on gravel. "You look tired."
"I am,"
Elian admitted. "This tool," Vargo gestured to the flute. "It is too great a burden for one man. Sell it to me. I will give you gold, enough to leave this hard mountain and live by the sea." Elian shook his head.
"It is not a tool, Vargo. It is a branch of the elder tree. It belongs to the earth. I am just the breath."
"Everything is a tool," Vargo scoffed. "Imagine what I could do. I could end droughts in the south. I could stop floods in the north. We could save empires, Elian. And we would be kings."
"You want to control the sky," Elian said softly. "But the sky is not a horse to be broken."
Vargo left, his eyes cold. He did not like the word no. That night, as the moon hid behind the peaks, a shadow slipped into Elian's home. Elian was deep in a sleep of exhaustion. Vargo's hired hand snatched the black flute and vanished into the dark. The next morning, the village awoke not to the sun, but to a strange, sickly yellow light. They ran to the town square. There stood Vargo, atop his carriage, holding the flute. "People of Oakhaven," he shouted, "your woodcarver was hoarding this power, but I will expand it. Watch!" Vargo put the flute to his lips. He didn't blow gently. He blew with the lungs of a greedy man, demanding, forceful. He wanted a storm that would wash gold out of the riverbeds. He blew a harsh, discordant screech. The sky didn't open. It bruised. The clouds turned a violent shade of purple and green. The wind didn't blow. It sucked. A vacuum formed, pulling shingles off roofs and hats off heads. "Stop!" cried the villagers. Vargo blew harder, his face red. "Obey me!" he screamed at the sky. The magic of the flute twisted. It amplified the intent of the player. Elian had played with love, so the sky gave love. Vargo played with greed, so the sky gave destruction. Lightning began to strike, not the ground, but the flute itself. Arcs of electricity danced around Vargo, scorching his velvet coat. The earth began to shake. The elder tree in the forest groaned, a sound loud enough to be heard in the square. Elian pushed through the crowd. He looked frail, but his eyes were blazing. "Vargo! Drop it!" "It's mine!" Vargo yelled, though the wood was now burning his hands. He couldn't let go. His greed had become a physical trap. The wind howled, threatening to flatten the entire village. Elian didn't run to Vargo. He ran to the earth. He fell to his knees and pressed his hands against the rocky soil. He didn't try to control the sky. He spoke to the roots.
Forgive us,
Elian whispered.
Take it back.
The ground beneath Vargo's carriage split open. Not a violent earthquake, but a deliberate opening, like a mouth. Vargo, terrified, finally released the flute. It tumbled from his blistered hands, falling into the fissure. The moment the flute hit the deep darkness of the earth, the screeching stopped. The fissure snapped shut. Silence. Absolute silence. The purple clouds evaporated instantly, leaving a gray, normal, unremarkable sky. A light drizzle began to fall. Just cold, wet, normal rain. Vargo fell from his carriage, weeping, his hands burned and empty. He fled the village that hour and was never seen in the mountains again. The villagers stood in the rain. They looked at their fields, which were now muddy and messy. They looked at their roofs, which needed repair. They looked at Elian.
Can you make another?
Someone asked.
Can you carve another flute?
Elian looked at his hands. He looked at the forest.
I could,
Elian said softly.
But I won't.
Why?
Because,
Elian said, picking up a shovel.
Look at your hands. They have become soft. Look at your spirit. It has become waiting. The magic gave us the harvest, but it stole our purpose.
Elian walked to the nearest field and dug the shovel into the wet earth.
Crunch.
If we want bread, he said, we must bake it. If we want shelter, we must build it. The mountain owes us nothing. One by one, the villagers nodded. They went home, picked up their tools, and for the first time in a year, Oakhaven was noisy with the sound of hammers, saws, and honest work. They say Elian lived to be 100. He never carved another instrument. But sometimes, when the wind blows through the crags of the Silver Mist Mountains, you can hear a low, humming note. A reminder.
And so, the people of Oakhaven prospered, not because of magic, but because they remembered who they were. The moral of Elian's story is simple, yet often forgotten in our world of instant gratification. The shortcut is often a trap. When we try to force the world to bend to our will, when we demand the fruit without tending the root, we create chaos. True prosperity, whether in wealth, in relationships, or in peace of mind, cannot be stolen, and it cannot be conjured. It must be cultivated. Vargo wanted the result without the respect. Elian knew that the gift was only borrowed. Now, I want you to take a moment. Think about your own life. Is there a magic flute you've been chasing? A shortcut you're hoping will solve everything overnight? Here is my challenge to you. Stop looking for the magic branch. Instead, pick up the shovel. Identify one thing you've been procrastinating on because you were hoping for an easier way. Just one thing. And today, commit to doing the hard, boring work required to move it forward. The magic isn't in the tool, traveler. The magic is in you and the work you are willing to do. Now, Go build something real. Every story needs a listener to come alive. If you heard the truth in Elian's tale, please like and share this video to help spread the word. Subscribe to join our Guild of Travelers and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Until the next tale, farewell.